Hey guys, long time no see. It's been a while. I'm trying to think how long it's been since I did a video where you can see my face. I think I was at Quantic Hills last summer. I think I was talking about how every day you're met with different energy and it's a different blueprint to which can invoke your inner process in different ways. But today, I wanted to talk about the king, warrior, magician, lover archetypes. They are from Carl Jung, Swiss psychologist. He discovered that there are a lot of archetypes that he was able to bridge psychology and spirituality. Trying to avoid stepping in poo. And then Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette narrowed it down to the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover archetypes for the sake of men's work. But some personal growth courses, such as Peter Sage, actually have a module on the king, warrior, magician, lover, even for women. But it's essentially masculine. It's essentially a roadmap to masculine maturity. And so I've been doing a retreat series with Hugh Newton, and we've been discovering and embodying the archetypes. And so we start with the king. And so what is the king? King/queen. It's essentially the sovereign. It's essentially the leader. It's essentially the heart king. He's in his heart. He loves the realm. If you think of the self with a capital S, not the ego, the soul, as a kingdom within. The kingdom within. And we think of the king who leads the realm, is the king of the realm. And he loves all parts. And so due to the world where we're at, we learnt growing up that certain parts of our personality aren't welcome. There's a lot of emotions such as anger and sadness and even playfulness, like playing. Just so many emotions we get taught, so many aspects of ourselves we get taught are incorrect, that should be hidden. So parts of our personality get discarded and pushed into exile, pushed into shadow. And so through this work we can reintegrate, using our king energy, different aspects of the soul. And so that's why we start with the king. We do the first retreat, which is the king. We get to know the king. Now, every archetype has its bipolar shadow forms. Inflated and deflated. Too much and too little. So that's the tyrant and the crumbling king. Or the abdicator. Tyrant or crumbling king. And they share a wound, that they believe that they are not good enough. And the crumbling king believes that he's not good enough, so he spirals and can't do anything and just wallows in pain and sadness. It's a very excruciating place to be in. I wonder how many of you can relate to that. Spent a lot of my time there. But the tyrant he doesn't admit to himself that he has that belief about himself. So he's got this belief about himself that he's not good enough, but he denies it from himself. It's an underlying belief that's in shadow that he can't see, and so he proves to the world, but I am good enough, and I'm better than you, and overthrows people and controls people and, you know, whips people and it abuses people. And so when we think of like the films, if you think of Game of Thrones, any Game of Thrones watchers, I don't want to go too much into stories in case like people haven't seen that, but yeah, like the Lannisters, you know, the Lannisters are tyrants, aren't they? Whereas the Starks are, in their heart, king, sovereign. And so with the first retreat, we learn all three brothers and we integrate it into one, and we come out as the heart king. And whenever the crumbling king comes out, oh, I can't do this, we then come back into our sovereign and we hold space for the crumbling king. And if the tyrant ever wants to come out, we bring it back, we come into the sovereign energy and we reel him back in. And so once we've done that, and we work with the inner child as well, the golden boy. And then in the next retreat, actually we did a second retreat, which I missed because I was unwell. It was too soon for me after an ayahuasca retreat. But the following retreat was the magician. There's a book on this called The King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, but in this retreat series we do the magician next. The magician is about the mind, is about thinking, is about strategy. He's the wise old man, he is the elder, he is the guru, he is the sage. Is that the word? Sage. And you know, he connects with the elements. He connects to plant medicines. He downloads. He heals. He seeks knowledge. He is the scientist. He is the shaman. So it's both mind, intellect, but also seeing, third eye, and we get to know him, and he's got many aspects. He has his inflated and deflated is the manipulator and the dummy. His wound is like, I'm a bad person. I'm bad. Yeah. It's also like to do with like, yeah, being dumb. And yeah. So every archetype is like a triangle. You've got the sovereign king, you've got the tyrant, you've got the crumbling king, then you've got the magician, you've got the manipulator, and then you've got the dummy. We do the magician second because he's complicated and like he can interfere with our process. So he is the self-sabotager. If he's not cultivated, he can sabotage us. You know, he is the inner critic. He is the predator, if not integrated. So the manipulator thinks he's righteous. Do I go that way? There's a lot of nettles. Maybe I'll go up again. He doesn't let on to himself. He's got this core belief that I'm bad, but he doesn't let on to himself. And he's like, I'm righteous, and like I've got to overthink, I've got to overanalyze, I've got to, you know, be manipulative, and like I've got to like strategize and be cunning and outsmart people. And so like men that aren't really in their warrior so much, and don't have that discipline and don't have that strength and don't have that courage, when presented with enemies, when presented with oppressive forces, when presented with people that challenge their wounds or trigger their wounds, they tend to go into their manipulator because they don't have the strength. a small, thin, physically weak, cunning man can use his intelligence to outsmart a less intelligent, strong, physically strong man, for instance, potentially. And then the dummy is just like, I'm just dumb, like, I'm a bad person, like. And so again, with our king, we steward these parts of us home, these parts of us that we haven't cultivated, left in the field of self, of soul, ready to be integrated, bringing it home, bringing all parts home, repurposing the inner critic so that he can serve us as counsel. Give me some counsel. I need some counsel. You know, all these parts of us, we can sit around the table, and as king, we can seek counsel. Am I doing this right? Am I making a mistake? Inner critic, please can you criticize in the healthy way of, don't touch fire, that'll hurt. Don't do that again. You said the wrong thing to that woman, and actually she's probably hurting inside. Maybe you should apologize for that. Not in the kind of like, you're shit, you're a waste of space, which is a lot of what our inner critics do. We've got really ruthless inner critics because I think there's a word called interject, whereby a lot of these voices are internalized, interjected from the society we live in. I was always criticized, left, right and center for everything. I couldn't, there was no space to be myself. Everything I did was met with criticism, and so now I've internalized that, I've interjected that into my inner critic. And so I've had to really repurpose my inner critic so that he's on my side. He's empowering me. These parts of me are supposed to empower me, myself. It's supposed to empower myself. So we repurpose these parts, we integrate them home, we bring them back, we love them. I forgive you for manipulating me. I forgive you for self-sabotaging. I forgive you for all these things, that mistake you made in the past. But here's what we're going to do. I'm in charge. I'm the sovereign. I'm the king. Here's what we're going to do from now on. And here's the reward for that. Living in a realm where you don't have to overwork yourself. You don't have to be manipulative. You don't have to be a tyrant. You can just let go and trust in the heart as we lead now from the sovereign heart-centered king. And then we do the same thing. We do the warrior retreat, and the warrior is very much about boundaries, which again, a lot of our boundaries were not honored as children. We didn't have that power. We were dependent. Lots of people breached my boundaries at boarding school, left, right and center. And so inflated warrior is the bully. There are also other words for it. And the deflated is the pushover. So I was very much in pushover. Everyone was bigger than me in school, stronger than me, better than me in so many ways. And I didn't have the strength. I was afraid. I was a coward. So I was really much in my too little of everything. But then occasionally I'd fluctuate. We'd oscillate, and I'd full swing into like bully, where I'd bully myself. I'd hit myself, and then I'd spiral back into too little. And so the warrior's wound is, I don't matter. And we integrate the parts back in. We do, and how do we do that? Well, we go into that part. We speak from that part. So the first retreat of the king, we go into the sovereign king. We speak from that place. Somebody's scribing, and they read it back to us, and we're in the king. We're seeing ourselves spoken back to us. And then once we've got to know the king, we can then be in the king, and then we can bring all these other parts of us back. Whoa, massive hornet. And so we did that with the tyrant, the crumbling, and then the magician. And, we're seeing these parts, and we go into that part, we go into the predator, we go into the inner critic, and we say, like, you are shit. You've you were right to be bullied. No wonder you were bullied. Like, you're just a piece of trash. We really go into those places. We talk, and somebody scribes, and they read it back to us. And we're in our heart king, holding space for our inner critic, loving our inner critic. I see you, and I honor you, and I need your counsel. Please guide me. Please come home. I love you. Welcome home. And so, yeah, we've done that, and we do that, and we've done that with all parts, and we're in the warrior retreat. But the warrior retreat, we also practice. We put it into practice, because the magician is sort of the thinking, contemplating and stuff. The king leads, but the warrior is about action. I matter. I have purpose, and I do the king's biddings. When the king says, put up a boundary, I put up a boundary. And so we did this practice in the field, in Hugh's field, where we talked about sort of who breached our boundaries in our past. For me, it was people at boarding school, my geography teacher. And so we did this exercise where brothers were stood in a circle, and if I use myself as the example, I was in the middle, and two brothers were like holding me, arms around me and sort of pushing up against me. And I had to choose somebody to role play my geography teacher. I gave him the lines, I showed him the sort of energy that he came at me with, and so he started to say that, and it was a time when my geography teacher grabbed me by the neck and slammed me into a wall and shouted at me, and that's haunted me. And it's like, when somebody breaches my boundary, it's like, from my past, like, they're still there. I dwell upon it. I'm angry, I'm resentful, I'm bitter, I'm hateful. And that's hard. It's hard to be with that emotion. And it's also hard to put up boundaries when I'm still carrying the burden of the people that crossed my boundary from my past. And so I used my force, my strength, to push these two men and the guy who was role-playing my teacher out of the circle. And the circle represented my space, my peace. And I used my voice, and we were guided through it so as to not kind of go into the kind of argumentative space, but into the kind of empowerment of, this is what's happening, this is my empowerment, this is my space, you are not welcome, goodbye. Out of the space. And it was liberating, and it was very empowering. And we learn boundaries, and boundaries become easier, and I'm finding it easier with boundaries. And then, yeah, finally the lover retreat, which we've just come back from a week ago. And it was very hard. The lover feels the emotions. The gateway emotion to the lover is grief. Love hurts, doesn't it? Opening our hearts to somebody that we love is scary. Fears of rejection. For men, it very much comes from our relationship with the mother, our mothers being the primal template of femininity in our lives, and the feminine being the source of life, the birthing of life, the nourishment, the source of love, the source of milk, the source of warmth, the source of comfort, while the man, the masculine, protects, provides, and this mother wound plays a big role in the lover archetype, and he feels and he longs to belong and to love and to be loved. And it's about love, and it's about romance, and it's about friendship, and it's about intimacy, and it's about closeness, and it's about interconnectedness, and it's about connection. The lover, the connected lover. And so his wound is, I'm unlovable. The inflated lover is the addicted lover. The deflated lover is the lonely lover. Do you guys recognize that in yourselves? I spent a lot of my time my lonely lover, and then when I meet a woman, my pattern is I go into addicted lover. And gradually, as we evolve, we go up that triangle. So we've got the lover, the healthy lover, the addicted lover and the lonely lover. If we're so in shadow, we're oscillating up here, but as we go more conscious, the oscillation becomes less, and then we get more mature to the point where we're just in healthy lover. There's no bipolar. That's what it means, bipolar shadow forms. We oscillate generally in different ways. And yeah, so the lonely lover is lonely. He's desperate for love, and but he can't, and he hides, and he's longing, and heartbroken. And then the addicted lover is like addicted. It's where addictions come from. It's where procrastination comes from. It's where that short-term gratification, where we seek it, we crave it, because we feel that void of I'm unlovable. I do not feel love in my heart, and I want to fill it up. It's where addiction to sex, addiction to drugs, addiction to masturbation, addicted to pleasure comes into play. And so same thing, we get to know these different parts, and we get to know our healthy lover. And what do you know, I came home from the retreat and all of my relationships have just fallen into place. What do you know? How hard it's been. And then we were coronated, and I'm wearing it. This is my coronation talisman. We were coronated, and the realm within, the kingdom within, the king has been coronated. And yeah, this is my ayahuasca from the ayahuasca dieta in the jungle 2020. And then this is lapis lazuli, helps with the throat chakra. And the inner child is happy because the inner child feels held by a loving king who's leading, who's doing what's right by the inner child. He's got a warrior that's protecting him. He's got a magician that's strategizing ways of moving through this life, giving counsel to the king. And then the lover who is enjoying life, enjoying relationships. So yeah, that's my testimony for the king, warrior, magician, lover archetypes, and Hugh Newton's work. Really recommend it. Men's work. He does it for men. I can put the link in the video below, in the description below. So yeah, I hope this video has been insightful for you. If you have any questions, do reach out. I do love talking about these things. I bless your inner kingdoms, and I bless your king, queen. I bless your warrior and his sword and his shield. I bless your magician and his staff. I bless your lover and his connection to the world around him and himself. And I bless your golden boy, golden girls. And I bless your lives, your past, present and future. May you live well. Long live the king. Peace.